Maurice Nicol, Psychological Commentary, Volume 2, based on his work with Gurdjieff. This is from a group meeting in Birdlip, February 3, 1945, The Doctrine of Eyes. This is part 2 of 2. The imagination that we have I, the imagination that we are doing everything from ourselves, the inability to see that we are mechanical, and that everything happens to us. The non-realization of this imaginary I and all the fantasies that it builds up in the false personality, and this inability to see where we really are, this inability to see what our lives have been, all this keeps us fast asleep in a continual self-lying, a continual pretense, a continual self-hypnotism. The state of ourselves is described in another work parable as a driver sitting in a public house and spending all his money on drink while his horses and carriage in which he can go somewhere real are standing outside neglected. You remember that this parable says the first step is to awaken the driver. What is this drink that the driver is drinking? It is imagination about himself. And we only have ourselves to drink, literally to see the strength of this imagination. What does everybody begin to do when they begin to drink literally? They begin to boaster that they begin to reveal their secret self-imagination, how wonderful they really are and how no one has appreciated them because, and so on and so on. Because everyone has this secret self-romance connected with imaginary I and false personality, and this constitutes one of the most hidden sources of making internal accounts. The first form of lying we have to study in ourselves, the work says, is that in which we are always tend to tell us about something that happened to ourselves to our own advantage. When you have to report what you said and what the other person said in some work conversation, you will find that it is practically impossible to put the matter rightly. You will tend to put the whole report to your own advantage by leaving out some things you said and slightly overemphasizing other things you said. Of course, you can do the same thing with the other way around by deliberately putting yourself in a very bad light through wretched self-pity which hopes for a reward. However, people are quite certain they can speak the unbiased truth both about themselves and of other people. Certainly there are more truthful eyes in us and less truthful eyes. But what is the whole object of being truthful in the work? It is not based on moral grounds. It is based on the possible development of something called essence that can never grow through pretense or falsity. All those eyes that lie habitually, all those eyes that protect the central kingdom of the false personality and justify everything, twist everything, turn everything to their own advantage, prevent this inner development of essence from taking place. For this reason, the work teaches it is so important to tell the truth to your teacher, because by this exercise, you learn how to tell the truth to yourself. And if you cannot tell the truth to yourself, you cannot get beyond the sphere of the imaginary I and the false personality, which cannot give you any inner development. So it is not a moral question, but a practical one. If we begin to see more now, the falsities in our past lives, we begin to alter them in the past. We can see lies in the past, but we can only see them through the work on ourselves in the present. If our observation of ourselves has become increased now in the present, and we begin to see all sorts of false attitudes, false intonations, false ways of conceiving of our own value, false blaming, etc., we are mercifully able to see the same things having operated in the past. That is, we change the past from the present moment of the work, because life is a compact thing lying coiled up in ourselves, and when we die, we take this coiled up thing with us. Sometimes I have thought we can change the past more easily than the future. This is partly because when you begin to awaken a little more to do what you are like, the past comes forward and enters your consciousness, whereas the unknown future does not come forward in the same way. Always in the future lie further temptations, but you are not tempted by the past in the same way, except by habit. It is marvelous, however, it's marvelous how the work opens up your past in exactly the right way when you have begun to lift yourself in the present moment to the work level, to the level of the work. Now you begin to see what your lying has been in the past, and you begin to understand that what is called lying in the work is not always what you thought. It may be expressed by lying in words. Call it, if you like, pretending. A person can lie with a single gesture, a single look, a single intonation, a casual mannerism, a sigh, a heartbroken expression, and an illness by a hearty matter, by being always fit and well. We all know how marvelously we have behaved, and we all know what intolerable conditions we have been subjected to. The work says we all lead an imaginary life with ourselves. Now, this romance may take a great deal of strength from us, and in all cases, it prevents us from any real self-observation. It has to be torn out of the heart. The self-emotions are tremendously powerful. Sometimes these self-romances clustered around the imaginary I are sad and tragic. We all know one another's hopeless looks. When we are based on this inner self-romance, we are very weak. Whether the self-romance is about being strong and cheerful or being misunderstood or never having had a chance, etc. It's all this self-hypnotism, and it's always a deep source of our making of internal accounts because we do not see this form of imagination, which has such invisible power over us. We do not see the eyes that use this form of imagination that gives us a false center of gravity and makes us completely misunderstand the significance of our lives and what has happened in our lives. It prevents us from seeing our lives as they are and asking ourselves this rather terrible question: why has your life been like this? After a time, we may begin to get a work conscious. This makes us very unhappy, not in a soul-destroying way, but of self-pity and pseudo-suffering, but in a much cleaner way. This is the beginning of that force that can make you see your own lying. It is not an acquired life conscience from your upbringing, but the beginning of a real conscience which can change one's life. It is the birth in you of something quite new, and through its action, and though its action is very gentle, it is absolutely authentic, and you know and recognize its authority. This is the beginning of awakening from sleep. This conscience knows nothing about your being an Englishman or a Chinese or a rich or a poor man. It is the same in everybody once it is awakened. It is nothing to do with customs you have acquired, the schools you went to, the professions you follow, or the social position you hold. For it, you do not exist as a personality. The work teaches that this real conscience, which is always the same, lies buried in everyone, and that work awakens it eventually. This conscience serves the work. It leads to contact with higher centers. This conscience can never awaken as long as imaginary I and false personality and all the forms of lying connected with them are dormant, because this conscience leads in the direction of real I, which is totally above the level of imaginary I and false personality and all their pretenses. Remember also lying that harms others in the work. This too is a big subject for here. But remember how you treat another in your mind.